What I'm about to tell you is going to be mind-blowing. Our brain created that thinking pattern in order for us to survive. All of those things have influenced whatever difficulty you are having now. Hello and welcome back to another video. My name is Yugeshni. I make videos here on YouTube about faith, health, and mindset. Today I want to talk to you about why your childhood matters, because it actually matters quite a lot. Let's get into it. Now, if you've been to counseling, you probably already know why your childhood matters. But for those of you who don't understand that, what I'm about to tell you is going to be mind-blowing. The reason that counselors always want to talk to their patients about their childhood and their relationship with their parents is because this matters so much when it comes to your brain and the way that your brain works. Our brains are actually learning machines. From the moment that we are in the womb, our brain is taking in information and trying to make sense of the world around us. It is during these first few years of life when we start to form our thinking patterns. And these thinking patterns are based upon the things that are happening in our environment, the things that we are experiencing. The thing is that we don't actually understand that. As adults today, we forget or we do not realize that the way we think today is actually a direct result of everything that we experienced in our childhood. If you think about building a house, you first need a foundation. The foundational bricks are what is going to keep this house up. Those foundational bricks, those foundational thinking patterns, they are all laid in your childhood. If those bricks aren't laid well, it's going to start making the house rock, right? Like, it's not going to be a strong foundation. That house is going to be leaning, maybe even falling over. And we might not have put two and two together. We might not realize that today as an adult, we are struggling so very much with things like confidence, commitment issues, motivation, and even just trying to maintain our focus. And we're just sitting here trying to remedy these issues by medicating ourselves or simply just trying to force ourselves to be better. But what we don't realize is the problem is our thinking pattern. And this thinking pattern was created in our childhood. It is not our fault that we created that thinking pattern in our childhood. Our brain created that thinking pattern in order for us to survive, in order for us to operate well in that environment. You are most likely not operating in that environment anymore. Your environment now is totally different, but you still have the same thinking patterns from back then. That is where the problem begins. And that is why when you go to counseling, you always get asked about your childhood experiences. You always get asked about your relationship with your parents, because all of those things have influenced whatever difficulty you are having now, whatever thinking patterns that are no longer helpful to you now. Allow me to give you an example so you better understand what I am talking about. Say this little girl between the ages of born and 5, she experienced some form of trauma. Let's say she was abused as a child. She was living in a state of survival. Her brain is now telling her that she is being abused because she doesn't have the same kind of worth that everybody else does. Or maybe her brain is telling her that she is not important and that people do not respect or believe anything that she is going to say. She now sees herself as less. And in order to cope with her environment, these are the thinking patterns that have developed. Most likely, she's also developed the thinking pattern that people are out to hurt me, and that I need to protect myself, and that I need to put my walls up so that I don't get abused by anybody else in life. This is the kind of thinking she had. She might have even been depressed and wished that she wasn't alive because she hated what was happening to her in her life at that time. She was unable to do anything about her situation. She felt hopeless. And often she would think that she does not have the ability to do anything in life. That's the kind of mindset she had when she was a child. Now that same little girl has grown up and she's a woman. Those thinking patterns are still there. Now you will start to see she has confidence issues. She feels that she is not capable of doing anything. She might feel like she cannot have a successful relationship with a man because she feels like every man is out to get her, or that someday they're going to turn and they're going to abuse her. But she doesn't realize that she's thinking all these things. She thinks, yeah, I've been to counseling, I've done all the trauma stuff, like I'm fine now. But here's the thing. Thinking patterns do not go away that easily. It's not like, yeah, I went to counseling and now that I'm aware that I have that thinking pattern, everything is solved. Those thinking patterns stay with you. Those things don't go away. This is why your childhood is such a big deal, because that foundation that you built, which was not your fault, you were abused. You went through all of those things. It was a survival mechanism. Your thinking patterns were a result of your environment. You were literally trying to survive in an unsuitable environment. That stayed with you, but you're not in that environment anymore. And now you have to do the hard work of healing and trying to form new thinking patterns, trying to remember that, I did feel that way because of this that happened to me, and I have that trauma and it makes me think that, but that is not who I am. I am capable. I am not worthless. I am an important human being. Trying to combat all those thoughts takes a lot of time and a lot of work. But once we understand that that was all a result of a situation that we were placed in that wasn't our fault, I find that very empowering, because it makes you realize that no, you are not broken. You are operating as a result of your environment, and you did not choose to be in that environment. What happened to you in your childhood, whether it was good or bad, that was not your choice. That was already predestined for you. And you have formed all your thinking patterns and your personality as a result of what you experienced in your childhood. Now, as an adult, you're starting to realize that some of the things that you experienced in your childhood, good or bad, has resulted in certain thinking patterns that are not benefiting you anymore. And that is why we're all going to counseling these days, because we're trying to work on that. And really, I do not see this as a broken person trying to be fixed. I see this as simply personal development. I have a video on trauma where I explain a bit of this in that video, where trauma that you've experienced in your childhood can rear its ugly head in adulthood. That is so difficult to work on in adulthood, but it is possible. Even if you are somebody who did not have any major traumas in your childhood, still, the things that you experienced in your childhood, what you saw, what your environment was like, it has affected your mind, it has affected your brain, it has literally shaped your brain. And so you still have those thinking patterns with you. But now it's about filtering. It's about realizing, okay, this is how I think. This is how I see the world. These are the things that are benefiting me, and these are the things that are not benefiting me. How can I challenge these things that are not benefiting me? Because really, it's these things that are holding me back. That is all that it's about. So now you understand why your childhood matters so much. I have made this video simply to highlight something that once upon a time even I didn't know. Nobody ever asked me about my childhood until I went to counseling. And I felt like mind blown when I started to understand these things, because it felt like all the bricks just fell into place then. I understood like my personality. I understood who I was so much better, because it was a result of everything that I experienced and I was exposed to in my childhood. And like I said, it doesn't actually matter if it was good or bad, but rather you being aware of what your childhood was and how that's affecting you now. That is where the power is. And I felt very empowered by knowing that the way I think may have been a result of what I experienced before, but it doesn't have to be the way that I think now. There is hope. There is the opportunity to create new pathways in your brain, to have new thinking patterns. And yes, it takes work. No, it is not an overnight process. Yeah, it is quite emotional, especially if you're somebody who has trauma from your childhood. Trauma healing takes a very long time. It's a lot of work. But simply knowing that, simply understanding that my childhood has impacted me to this level, that alone not only blew my mind, but just made me think, whoa, And that is the sole purpose of me making this video. I want you to think about your childhood and how it has influenced the person that you are today. Because, like I said, it does not matter if you had a good childhood or a not good childhood. It has definitely influenced who you are today. And I think every single one of us has probably experienced at least one negative thing in our life that has influenced the way we think and see the world today. Whether we were bullied, whether, you know, one of our siblings was favored over us. All of those things matter. All of those things have affected the way that we think and the way that we operate today. So your childhood, it matters so much. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope it helps you to, at the very least, understand that it doesn't matter that this is what happened in your childhood. What matters is where you are now and the opportunity that you have to improve yourself if you think that you need to be improved, if that's the path that you want to go down. I think that's the big takeaway. So I hope this has been helpful for you. I'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.